them as they walk in. Okay? Alrighty. I'm going to put the mic on pause. I can see. I can see. Or is it just focus on it? You can? I love to hear it.
Thank you.
Practice makes perfect.
Yes. See you soon.
Oh, yes, ma'am. I'll be here. Why is it not? Is it? Can y'all see my screen? Or is it just focus on it? You can? Okay. Well, then I'm. Okay. Then I'll keep going. No, you know what? It's not working on my end. I know. See, but they can see. Wait, can you see the Google Classroom screen? You can. So why is it doing it that way? See, I need to see my class. It's not letting me see my class. Okay, so here is week 1. These are um, assignments that you have to do, but you have it on your, because everyone's on campus now. Those of you that are online, you're finishing up your hours until January 31st. But for you guys, you already know that your practical work is here on campus, and then you have your SEMA. And then if you still have access to Google Classroom, this is where you see those presentations. So without further ado, we will start with Lash 101. We'll also cover the growth cycles, lash growth cycles to be correct. And then we'll watch a video on eyelash prep, classic eyelash tray setup, and then your sanitization procedures. Okay, so we'll start here with the presentation. I don't understand, but oh well. Okay, so we are going to start with a history of lashing. So with anything that say that we have or that we do in society today, there is a history of it. Somebody thought of it, somebody created it, and it's evolved. So the same thing with lashes. Okay, it started somewhere. It really did. And I tell this story all the time. So I went through and I like started researching it, and I was like, I want to know how this actually started. Like, how did this idea come up to attach lashes to natural lashes? Like, where did that process start? So I have two stories because there's two different aspects of it. Which one is true? I don't know. Maybe both are true. But either way, both make sense somewhat. So back in ancient times, and I mean ancient times, they were wanting to extend the lashes. So can anybody guess what they might have come up with? And this is before anesthesia and knowing things about chemicals and things like that. Everything was more like natural and of the earth. No?
Like in what they would use to do stuff? Like
Okay, so my jaw dropped when I read this. What they actually did was they were trying to sew them into the skin along the lash line with whatever they were using, girl, or whatever they created as a needle. And I read that and I was like, this can't be real. But obviously, even if it is real, it didn't evolve, right? Because there's no sanitation procedure, there's no way to cure it, and it was just kind of crazy, right? So then the other aspect is where it's well, not the other aspect, but the other thing that I found was that it was sex workers. They were trying to figure out how to make their lashes long, so they were the ones that kind of figured out how to do it. But then we go back into like society's making progress. So then there was a filmmaker back in like the early 1900s that wanted to emphasize, and mind you, this was in black and white movies time. So they wanted to emphasize lashes. So it was actually a man that created it, where he learned how to string them onto a piece of thread or whatever it was that he used, and was figuring out, oh, lash strips. But how do you put them on there? So he figured out how to put them on with adhesive or whatever he used. So then that creation evolved into lash strips. So then they were thinner and they were daintier, and they probably weren't as long, but they were still applying them on as lashes. And then it comes up into the 60s and the 70s, and Twiggy, we see her with the long lashes. So that's how it started evolving. But then somebody was like, we can make this better. So in Korea, that's where they started, you know what? Let's try to do this one at a time versus putting a strip on. And so that's how it's come about. So every lash, I don't care who you buy it from, comes from Korea. They are mass created and they are mass shipped to whoever needs them and wants them. Okay, so that's kind of how it started from thousands of years back to now. Okay, and even when when I learned it like 10 years ago, when I moved to Dallas, I went to school and it wasn't like really a thing. Like I would go to Amazon and type in lash tweezers and nothing would come up. Or if I just typed in tweezers, it would be either jeweler's tweezers, or I had to do a deeper search into medical tweezers. Like I literally had to sit and think, who uses tweezers? So it was hard to find, and stainless steel ones, they were very expensive. Okay, so now you go onto Amazon and you just type eyelash and bam, you get pages and pages. There wasn't even salons about that I could say, oh, let me go see if they sell lash or supplies. It wasn't there. It just wasn't. So then fast forward about 5 years, then we started seeing more lash salons and more people, because more people started to learn it. So then you were able to purchase products online through Amazon and different lash brands, lash vendors, or people that were partnering up with somebody, and were able to buy it. Now you say eyelash extension and everybody knows what it is. And when I was learning, I was working at a retail store, and this lady, she had him her card, and she goes, I do eyelash extensions. And I was like, oh, that's cool. And I looked at the card, and I was like, I don't even know what that is. Like, I myself didn't know what it is until I went to school and I found out what it was. And I fell in love with it. So anyway, back then, when they were teaching us lash extensions, we did have these lash trays, but what was more common were the little round pots, and they were just thrown in there loose. Like, they weren't even on a strip like this. They were just loose. Like, I don't know if you guys ever had like a dad or a grandpa that like dipped and would pull tobacco out of a pouch or a container. It's kind of what it was like. You would just pull out a little grip, you would close it. Then there was this thing called a silicone pinch pad, which you can still buy, and you would place them on that pinch pad, and then you would get your tweezer and tap it, and it would line straight up. Then you would go in with your tweezer, grip it, and then dip it in the adhesive. It was a little bit of a longer process, but then when this came about, it was like, oh, that's amazing, because they're straight and they're all organized, and you can work better versus grabbing a little grip and trying to sort them out and flip them and turn them the way you want. Okay? So then we have celebrities. And so once celebrities got the gist of this, that's where it blew up. Who can we think of that kind of helped start a trend with lashes? They have a show. Yeah, Kim. She had the long lashes. And so some people thought they were strips, but if you look close enough, they're actually extensions. So that's where the whole, if you think back to trends, when she had those long lashes, that's where it started trending, that everybody wanted longer lashes, whether it was a lash strip or lash extensions. Okay, so, you know, you got to follow the trends. So what's trending right now with extensions? Wet lash, and what else? Wispy, and what else? And spikes. So all of that's trending. But see, when I learned it, it was all like just classic. And then in Russia, what's her name? Dubrava Novova, something like that. She created it, so that created a thicker look. And then, you know, the Russians don't like American volume because they say our volume's sloppy, and so we go back and forth, whatever, right? So there's always an evolution of it, okay? And so look at this right here, billion-dollar industry. That's the beauty industry alone. So with what you guys are doing, you can make more money because you're learning a little bit of everything, right? And then if you do lashes, well, that's even more bank for you. But you fit in, and you fit in, and you fit in, and we all fit in. Whichever road we take in the beauty industry, we can all make money. But what comes behind making that money? Self-discipline and practicing and practicing and practicing. Okay, so knowing that, you're in the right place, because we emphasize practicing like nobody's business, because that's the only way to get better. So, for example, you guys kind of walked in maybe not even knowing how to hold your tweezers, and what are y'all doing today at the end of your day? You're holding your tweezers, you're gripping a lash, you're dipping, and you're working. So you had your first day of practice. And so what are you doing while you're practicing? You're thinking about your steps and your processes. Oh, I made this mistake. Well, look at what I did. How do I fix that? So now you're learning from your mistakes. So learning from your mistakes is what makes you better. So if you're a perfectionist, I just want to get it right. I want it to be perfect. I want to get it right. I want to get it perfect. You're not allowing yourself to grow. So if you're one of those, allow yourself to grow. Allow yourself to make the mistakes, because you'll be better off for it at the end of this program. Okay? All right. So now features and benefits of lash extensions. So for one, obviously it eliminates the need for eye makeup. It makes it easy for a lot of people, especially busy people, busy moms, busy entrepreneurs, whether you're an athlete, whatever it is. If it's for your wedding, a quinceañera, because now we've got teenagers that want it because they see all their influencers and idols and people that they're looking up to that are getting it. So pretty much everybody wants it, just about. And if they don't know about it, they're going to find out about it, right? Because some people have never gotten it. We still get people that are like, I've never had it. Like, what do I expect? So for you guys as the lash artists now, It's now part of your job to explain to them what it is and reassure them that it is a safe service and everything's going to be okay. And they're going to wake up with long lashes and you're going to be like, new me, new me. You know what I mean? So who this new me? I was thinking I didn't say it. But anyway, so it does make it easier. And if you are someone that you really don't want to wear a lot of makeup, but then you want to wear makeup, but you don't want to do your makeup, this is that. Because it looks like you have longer lashes, it looks like you curled them, and it looks like you're wearing mascara. And also, if they're done right, looks like you're wearing eyeliner, right? And so it eliminates the need, maybe just some lip gloss and a quick brush up on your brows, y vámonos, you're good to go, right? So that's a huge benefit. It's a great plus. Also, no clumping. Remember that pink tube of mascara that we would just put on and put on and put on, and it was all clumpy? I remember seeing my sister, and because my sister did it, I thought it was cool to do. But she would actually, and don't do this, disclaimer, don't do this. She would get a safety pin and go through and separate her lashes with the safety pin, and I would look at her like, why are you doing that? She goes, because it's so clumpy and it's so sticky. So it eliminates that need. So please don't take a safety pin to your lashes. Don't do that. Okay. And then, excuse me, they also create the volume and the thickness that we get from mascaras, right? And so it is an investment, but it's also a partnership with your person. So you teach her how to take care of them, so that way she comes back to you with 50% or more lashes still on, and you can give her a fill versus a full set. And we'll talk about that in a minute. Okay. So obviously they make you look more alert and youthful, and they're great for people with active lifestyles. So even if you're a mom and you got to go drop your kids off in the what is it, that long line that snakes around, we all looking at each other, and so we're like, oh, I don't want to go looking like I just woke up. I got my lashes on. I'm good. I just need to put my hair in a ponytail, right? So any questions on any of that I just spoke on? No? Okay. So now as far as curls and diameters, why do we consider curls and diameters? Because we need to take care of and maintain the integrity of the natural lash, right? So we were kind of talking about it earlier, like now there's 20 and 25s, and those are extremely long. And this is a question I ask every class that I teach. If you are going to build a house, what do you need to build a house? Like if you're going to a foundation. Now, do you want a foundation that's kind of thin and weak, or do you want one that's strong? Strong, right. So that's where this comes into play. If your client's lashes are long, thick, and strong, then you can come in with longer lashes, okay? Now, going past, man, normally I don't go past the 13. Well, when I was lashing, I didn't go past the 13. But if my client's lashes are naturally a 13, then I can go up to 2 millimeters longer than that 13, and that would be 15s. Okay. Now, I had a client that wanted 25s the other day, and I was like, ma'am, we really don't have anything to work with. She was like, but that's what I want. I was like, well, if anything happens to your lashes, we're not liable, because this is what you want. Because we were trying to sway her down, and she didn't want it. So I was like, okay, well, you need to sign this document saying this is what you want. So anyway, moving forward. So when we're talking about our length options, we have 3 millimeters all the way up past 20 millimeters. And so that's what this is. So that MM is the actual length. Okay. And then if you're like, well, I don't even know how long her natural lashes are. Once she lies down, you can actually grab, like, say, a 12 millimeter lash out of your lash tray and measure it up next to her longest natural lash and say, oh, this is the same length, or it's too short, let me try another one to measure it, or her natural lash is longer, then you grab a longer lash to measure against that to see how long it actually is. And then once you start doing that, that becomes a habit, and you're able to look at her lashes and just say mentally, oh, I'm going to use this length on that lash. I'm going to put this length on that lash, because you start to know what the lengths are just by looking at them. Okay. Then we have curls. All right. So when I started school, the only curls we had were J, B, C, and D, and that was it. There was nothing else. We've evolved. So this presentation is newer, but not super new. But there's tons of lash curls out there. So we've got L minus and L plus, and then we have the U curl. But now we also have BB, CC, DD curls. We have, there's also not an L plus, an L minus. There's another L curl, but I forget which one it is. There's also an M curl. So there's a ton of curls. Your creativity can, go beyond your wildest imagination wherever lashes are concerned. So you have a plethora of curls available to you. And then the thickness. So if she's got thinner lashes and she wants a classic lash, you can always scale back to a 10 versus doing the 15, because if the 0.15 is too long, then you can do a 0.10. Okay? So your thicknesses range anywhere from 0.02 all the way up to 0.25 and maybe longer. Okay, but anything past 0.15 is very, very heavy and could damage the natural lashes. All right, and so let me go back here. So on your trays, your lash trays, when you get them, you have this information on your lash tray. So you have 0.15. That means the thickness of your lash is a 0.15. So that tells me I can use this for a classic lash. That curl is a D curl. So that's telling me it's a little bit, I want to say, tighter at the base than the C curl. And then this is a mixed tray. So what that mix means, this one starts from 9 millimeters and it has lashes all the way down to 16 millimeters in length. Okay. If I find that I use just 13s more than anything else, I can buy a tray of just all 13 millimeters or whatever length I need. Okay. Just depending on your business and what you know is in demand for you and your clients. Okay. So now, lash types. So we have mink, which is tapered 2/3 down from the tip. It is thinner through the body. It has a soft feathery appearance, and it is premium grade synthetic hair, where on the other side you have silk, and it's also premium grade synthetic hair. That one is tapered 1/3 down from the tip. It is thicker in the body, and it provides a fuller, more bold appearance. And at one moment in time, we were actually using real mink and real silk. The same things were happening to the two. When they got wet, they were losing their curl. So now you have synthetic so that the curl stays. They're not losing their curls. All right. So now here's your techniques. Now with your techniques, you have classic, volume, and hybrid. So classic, and here it says you can use the 0.10, the 0.12, and the 0.15. So what classic means is you're doing one-to-one application, meaning one extension is going to touch one natural lash, and you're going to do you're going to attach throughout the lash line. Okay. So on campus, on our models, we do 90% lash attachment. On your practicals, on your lash strips, you do 100% application. Okay. And when you're attaching, it doesn't matter whether it's a classic, a volume, or a hybrid. You are always attaching 1 millimeter, 0.5 or half a millimeter to a full millimeter away from the base. Meaning, if this is my eyelid and it's closed and my lashes are coming out, I'm going to attach about that close. So the thickness of a credit card is the gap that you should see across the lash line when you're working. When you see that, you have that aha moment. Oh, now I see what you mean by the eyeliner look. Because those bases, once the eye is open, it looks like it's eyeliner across the skin, and it's not. Okay? So then your volume lashing means that you are creating fans and you are using smaller diameter lashes. So our lightest lash that we have here on campus is a 0.03. Then we go to 0.05. And then the most common that everyone gets in their kit is a 0.07. So those lashes are pulled off the strip and they are fanned and they are placed 1 millimeter from the lid line. There is more than one way to create a fan, but the one way that we frown upon and say do not do while you are a student on this campus is to pinch, because the bases cross and it is not a sanitary process. But Miss Monica, what if I wear gloves? You have to wear gloves 100% of the time. You can't pick and choose when you want to wear gloves, because that doesn't look even across the board when you're working on your clients. Well, why are you wearing gloves with her but not with me? Or why are you wearing gloves with me but not with her? It almost looks like you're singling a person out, or you're afraid to touch a person, which is usually kind of what that happens with that scenario. So if you're going to wear gloves 100% of the time. Okay? But no pinching. Then when we are looking and talking about hybrid, and here are the images that coincide with the technique. So this is what classic looks like, and here is volume. So what is hybrid? Hybrid means it's a combination of two things to create one. So what we are combining is our classic and our volume, and that's why you have hybrid in the middle, because it's a combination of the two. So if I were to enlarge this image, you can see where there's classics in there, but then you can see where the fans are crossing over. Okay, so the lashes to use with that technique is you are going to have two different diameters. You're going to have 0.07s, and you're also going to use 0.15s. So when you build your palette or create your palette, and everyone has this tile in their kit, but you'll have like 0.15s on one part and 0.07s on the other part. So you'll have two different lash lengths, or I'm sorry, diameters on your palette, versus just having just a classic palette and having just a 0.07 palette, and then you have two palettes on your bed, and then you're kind of going back and forth. You can put it all on one palette. Okay? All right. Any questions on that? No? Okay. So with your hybrid, the way that technique works, and I'm probably jumping ahead in weeks, but it's just you are basically using 0.07s and 0.15s. You're going to do a couple of passes of classic, and then you're going to do the same amount of passes with your fans. Okay, that's basically all that is. Now your tweezers. So your tweezers are your most important tools. They allow you to pick up the lash extensions, and you can also isolate natural lashes with your tweezers, and they do come in a variety of shapes and sizes. So you have your straight tweezers. So while we're talking on this, just to kind of knock two birds out with one stone, this is your straight tweezer. This is how you would hold that tweezer. Okay, you want to basically lay the top part of it in this little area right here. I don't know what it's called, but then, and it's almost like chopstick. That's where you want to lay it, right there. Okay, I feel like I have to sneeze and it's not coming out. Then on this side is your thumb. So right here where it starts to get thick is where you want to place your thumb. And then on the opposite side, your middle finger, and then your pointer finger goes on top. That way when you're lashing on your mannequin, and those of you that consume caffeine and you have the shakes, you can stabilize just like this. Your hand should hug your client's head, and this is how you should work. And so your fingers will actually adjust the tweezers for you so that you can get in and tweeze. Isolate the way you need. Okay? So this is how you would hold your straight tweezer. Then we also include a 45-degree angled tweezer. So when you look at it, it has a slight angle and it comes in at a 45. So this tweezer is my favorite tweezer. It's my preference to use this as an isolation tool. So the same thing, your thumb on this side, your middle finger on this side, and your pointer finger on top. And then you will hug the forehead with your other fingers to stabilize. And this is how you come in and isolate with single-handed isolation. Okay, now if I find that I'm having issues, I can use two tweezers to come in and isolate, and I'll show that here in a bit. Then you also get a booted tweezer. Your booted tweezer, you're going to hold this one slightly different. This tweezer is made this way with that little boot at the bottom, because this is what you're going to use to pick up your fans. Okay, So with this tweezer, you want to place it like that recorder that you used to play in elementary school with your pinky not touching. So these 3 fingers go on the back side and your thumb help to control the tension, and that goes on the back side. So when you are lifting fans off your pallet and placing, you can stabilize with your finger, and then the palm of your hand should be touching, and you can come in and attach those fans while you're isolating with the other hand. Okay? Then you get one more tweezer, and it's not going to be identical to mine, but it's going to be similar. And this one is called a crane. Yours might be a little bit thinner, a little bit shorter. It may be black and gold, it may be gold, but whatever the case, when you go in and you start using or creating your fans with your thinner diameters, you can use that thinner booted tweezer. It's either going to be rounded or it's going to be also at a slight 45, but it's called the crane because it looks like the bird, the crane. Okay. So when you're also building fans with that one, the same thing, 1, 2, 3, and your thumb on the back, and that you can help. That'll help you build your fans and create your fans. Okay. Now your tweezers will either come with these little plastic tips on the top. Save those, because if you throw your tweezers in your kit without this plastic case or the sleeve, whatever they come in, and you throw them in your kit just like that, although you're like, oh well, it's safe, it can damage the tips of your tweezers, and then you're going to be like, Miss Monica, my tweezers aren't working, and I'm going to ask you a million questions to figure out that you weren't protecting them and they were just thrown about in your box. So protect the tips of your tweezers, because they are the ones that are actually doing the work for you. If you're trying to lift the lash and it just kind of rolls out, it's because you rolled your tweezer or the tip is broken and that lash isn't staying where it needs to be. So your tweezer's not able to hold the lash the way you need it to. Okay? All right. So now we just covered all that. Okay, so magnification. If you wear glasses, you're good. You'll be able to see with just your glasses. But if you don't wear glasses and you can see, always make sure you have proper lighting. And if your eyes start to get tired at the end of the day, or you feel like you're starting to struggle with vision, you can always buy glasses that have magnification, whether it be readers from Dollar Tree, Target, or if you want to order specific readers, you can, but you can test yourself at the store where you just kind of pick the glasses and put them on, and it says if you can read this, this is the whatever reading power for you. And it's usually like a 1.00, 1.25, 1.50, 2.00, and it goes on. Okay. I damaged my eyeball, so now I have to wear progressive lenses, or otherwise I wouldn't have to wear glasses, but because of all that, I have to. So with that being said, you can also order these glasses online on Amazon. Some lash vendors will sell them. You can even spend like $300 or $400 and have them specially made to your eyes if you want to spend the money, if you want to invest in that. Okay. But they usually come in a box with various magnification plates. You just put them on there and see if you can see. If you can't see, take it off and put another one until you can see. The thing with these magnification plates is you still have to adjust. So what that means is if you have it on and you're looking at your client and then you try to look away, you're not going to be able to see. So you're actually going to have to take them off, let your eyes adjust for a few minutes, and then look. That is a problem with some lashers where they damage their eyes because they use magnification glasses all day long. So just be careful with that. Okay. Alrighty, and then some of them do have lights on them. Just make sure that those lights are going to aim exactly where you need them to. Sometimes they'll aim higher or further off to the side or inside. So just make sure that that light is adjustable so that you are able to see where you need to see. Okay, so now with your 3D lash adhesive, here is that label. So that label is obviously going to have the brand on it, and it reads adhesive. It's a 5 milliliter bottle, that small black and white one. I know she's been trying the test. This is also 5 milliliter. It's just a different shape. Okay. This is a 1 to 2 second drying adhesive. And here are your ingredients. You have ethyl cyanoacrylate, carbon black, polymethyl methylacrylate, So those are like ingredients for, it's basically your adhesive. Okay, that's what's making the potency of your adhesive to where it'll cure and those lashes will stick onto the natural lashes. Okay, and I'll talk about those ingredients in just a second. So now you want to store it in a cool place where children cannot grab it. The last thing you want is to see your baby doing this and then it's like, Mommy. Okay, you're gonna have to rush them to the ER. The thing with the okay, let me before I go back to that. Okay, so avoid contact with eyes and skin. It is professional use only. And your temperature, so it's almost like thrives off of the temperature and the humidity. So the temperature in your room for this adhesive needs to be anywhere from 59 to 77 degrees. Okay, but the hotter the room, the quicker it's going to get thick. And when it thickens, you just need to take it out, throw it away, and dispense a fresh dot of adhesive. Okay. The humidity needs to be 30 to 70% in your room because the adhesive needs moisture for it to start to cure. Doesn't necessarily dry, it just cures. So it cures from the outside in. And we say fan them so that they can start drying. Really what the fanning does is kind of just blowing the fumes away from your client's eyes versus drying it because that humidity is helping to cure it. Okay, does that make sense? All right, so now back to the ingredients. Okay, so where it says avoid contact with eyes and skin, we're not putting it inside the eyes, we're putting it on the lashes, so we're okay, okay? But knowing that the adhesive, the humidity and moisture is what helps to cure it. If your client, like say you've gel patted them, but their eyes are slightly open and you can see the whites of their eyes, when they open their eyes, because there's moisture in there, that the adhesive is reaching for the humidity or the moisture in her eye. So what it's going to do, it's going to cause redness. The fumes are going to cause that redness and irritation in the eye. So you have to make sure that when you're lashing, that seal stays shut. So even if you're trying to lift so that you can see, make sure that you're not opening the eye and seeing the whites of her eyes. Okay. Now, it's saying caution not touching on the skin. That's why we urge you to have that 1 millimeter gap between the lash line and the bottom of the lash. You have to have that 1 millimeter gap. It's not touching the skin. If it touches the skin, you can cause chemical burns. Okay. And if you continue to touch the skin, you're going to end up seeing that there are little chemical burns along the lash line. So making sure that it doesn't touch. And at one point, I used to place the lashes to show like what the base looks like. But if you actually look, one day I was like, man, why is my finger burning? I had adhesive on there. So I had to go and take it off. And how do you remove adhesive? With either your gel remover or acetone. Your gel remover is a gel form of acetone. So therefore, we urge you to make sure you don't get it on your client's skin. Okay? All right. Any questions on that? No? All right. So I pretty much covered the 101. Know your adhesive. So when it says to shake your adhesive, you need to shake it not like this. You need to shake it like this, vigorously. Like you need to make sure it gets shook up, and you have to do this for a minute. So you'll see some girls with those little adhesive shakers. You just pop it on and it'll spin it. It'll shake it. But if I see you shaking your adhesive, I'm going to be like, put some more ganas in it, girl. Shake it up. Okay? Because it does have to get shook up. Because here's the thing. If you don't shake it properly and you take the cap off and you go to dispense it, you're going to see either a clear drop or a gray drop. So dispense that one and throw that one away and go in and dispense again. And if you're still seeing that, then you didn't shake it right. So you got to recap it and keep shaking it. That affects the efficacy and the strength of the adhesive. It needs to create that bond, because if it's not where it needs to be, those lashes will fall off. Okay, so it's very important that you shake that adhesive the way it needs to be. And then this bottle is good up to 60 days. So know your adhesive, and you always want to date it when you first open it. It's usually 30 to 60 days. This one's 60 days. Now, when you purchase your adhesive, and say it comes in a little cute little package like this with that little pouch to keep the moisture away from it, and you haven't opened it, it's still sealed, that's good for up to 6 months until you open it. Once you open it, you have that time frame, 30 to 60 days. Okay? All right. Now, the other thing that I'm going to tell you, oh, and I don't see anybody in here with it. You can buy the little airtight containers on Amazon, and some of them come with a little sponge, and it has indentions where you can put 3 bottles of adhesive in there. Only adhesive, no primer, because that primer is going to cure this because there's moisture in that primer bottle. The other thing you have to remember is to cap your adhesive tightly, because if you don't, and this is getting flung around in the back seat of your car, in the trunk, it starts to seep into the cap and then you can't open it. So at that point, you're SOL. You're going to have to buy another one. Okay, so the other thing that you need to know about adhesive, and I'm about to do what you're not supposed to do. Adhesive and cotton, when they come in contact with each other, creates a fume. It'll start to smoke. How do you stop it from smoking? You put water on it. That way it'll stop it from smoking. Now, if you forget and you're doing this over and over and you're throwing it into your trash can and you leave it in your trash can, you could start a fire. So be very careful with this when you do this. So now the other thing that you'll hear me constantly telling students is when you're lashing, do not swipe your lashes on the under eye pad, because that's cotton, fumes, and then your eyes, so you're going to cause irritation. Okay, so you should never be swiping your adhesive anywhere else but on the lash line. I'm not seeing it spoke, but I'm not going to take the chance, so I'm going to put it with water. So now, what happens with too much water? Too much water on the lash line, so if she starts to tear and you're just letting her tear and you're not drying that off, what can happen is you will shock cure that adhesive. It'll over polymerize, and then what happens is that clump of adhesive then turns white. As white as this. And then when it turns as white as this, those lashes will come off. So you're going to have to go back and remove them and